There's a paradox in human attraction and relationships that most people never fully grasp. The more you try to be seen, the more invisible you often become. The more you chase, the more you push away, and the harder you try to prove your worth, the less it's felt by the one you're trying to impress. This is a lesson carved into the very stone of Stoic philosophy. Desire, when uncontrolled, leads to suffering. And nowhere is this more true than in our personal relationships. In today's video, we're diving deep into the real reasons why showing too much interest, even when it comes from a good heart, can quietly kill attraction, respect, and even your own peace of mind. Whether you're a man trying to reconnect with a woman who's drifting away, or a woman wondering why your genuine love feels overwhelming to him, this message is for you. We're going to break this down into 8 powerful chapters, each one unpacking a piece of the Stoic puzzle that, when fully understood, will make you not only more attractive, but more grounded, more composed, and more free. So before we begin, hit that subscribe button, click the like, and stay with me through to the end, because the final chapter brings it all together in a way that could genuinely shift how you approach relationships forever. Now let's begin where most people fall short. The trap that opens the door to invisibility. On the trap of overinvesting. Most relationships don't implode in a dramatic fireball. They fade, they cool, they lose their spark like a once blazing fire left untended. And very often, this slow fade begins with one person doing just a little bit too much, reaching out too often, giving too much energy, showing too much interest, too soon, too frequently, too unconditionally. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Interest is not the problem. Connection is not the problem. The problem is imbalance. When one person is pouring from a full cup into an empty one, with no return. When the energy stops flowing both ways, attraction doesn't just pause, it reverses. Overinvesting is not about loving too deeply. It's about making someone your center while you're just an option to them. It's when your emotional world begins to orbit around someone else's validation. You wait for their text like a lifeline. You interpret every pause, every silence, every delay as a sign, and in doing so, you lose the one thing that ever made you attractive to begin with. Your presence. Your groundedness. Your self-sufficiency. This trap is subtle. It often starts innocently. You're excited. You see potential. You think, why not show them I care? But in the background, something darker brews. A growing fear of losing them. And when that fear takes the wheel, you start doing things that don't feel like you. You initiate more. You offer more. You show more affection. More attention, and you think you're showing love, but what you're really showing is. The Stoics warned us of this dynamic. They taught that our peace must come from within, never from something we can lose. If your emotional stability depends on the response of another person, their text, their tone, their attention, then you have handed them the keys to your inner kingdom. And make no mistake, they may not want that responsibility. Think of someone chasing after a bird. The more you reach, the more it flutters away. Why? Because your movements create pressure. What was once natural becomes forced. What was once comfortable becomes calculated. The very effort to keep them close is what drives them further. Over-investing also signals to the other person, often unconsciously, that they don't have to work for your attention, that your affection is not earned, but freely available, no matter how they behave. And we humans, flawed as we are, rarely value what we don't earn. When you constantly initiate, you remove their chance to miss you. When you always express your feelings, you deny them the mystery of wondering about yours. And when you give more than they do, emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. You teach them that this is the dynamic. You give, they receive. Now let me be clear. This isn't about playing games. It's not about manipulation. It's about restoring balance. Because the truth is, we all want to feel like we matter, but not like we're smothered. We want attention, but we also need space to breathe. When one person floods the connection with constant attention, they rob the relationship of the very tension that makes it compelling. Overinvesting can also kill your mystery, and mystery is magnetic. When someone already knows how you feel, where you stand, what you want, and that you'll always be there regardless, then there's nothing left to discover. And discovery is what drives desire. Ask yourself, when was the last time you pulled back and let them come to you? When was the last time you allowed space in the conversation, space in the connection, not as a tactic, but as a healthy boundary rooted in your self-respect? Because if you're always trying to be seen, heard, acknowledged, you end up disappearing. You become background noise, predictable, taken for granted, not because they're ungrateful, but because your constant presence eliminates the contrast that makes appreciation possible. Even a beautiful melody becomes dull if it's played non-stop. The Stoic approach is simple but powerful. Give with intention, not desperation. Love with depth, but not dependence. Show interest, but don't abandon your self-worth to do it. Let them meet you halfway. Let them wonder where you are. Let them reflect on what you bring into their life, instead of always being the one to remind them. And most importantly, let your actions come from a place of fullness, not fear. If you've ever found yourself chasing after someone who keeps stepping back, take a breath, return to your center, because it's only when you stop running that you realize you were the thing of value all along. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever found yourself giving too much, texting too often, chasing too hard, hoping too loudly, only to end up feeling invisible? Share your experience in the comments. Let this space be a reflection of lessons learned. And if you're ready to change that dynamic, if you're committing today to invest in yourself before others, then type this below. I am not invisible. I am whole, and I stand grounded. Let's move forward. 2. Why interest can feel like pressure. Interest is not inherently a flaw. It's a beautiful human expression of care and desire. But when miscalibrated, when applied without rhythm or restraint, it becomes something else entirely. Pressure. And pressure, my friend, is one of the quickest ways to make someone withdraw, even if they once felt deeply drawn to you. You might not realize it, but interest, especially romantic interest, carries with it an emotional weight, a subtle signal. It says, I want something from you. Now, if both people are aligned in pace and intention, that weight feels like warmth. But if one person is hesitant, unsure, or even slightly less invested, that warmth can feel suffocating. Here's where the Stoic mindset offers clarity. Your internal state is not the world's responsibility. Your longing, your desire, your need for connection, those are your burdens to carry, not theirs. The moment you try to offload that weight onto someone else by overexpressing, over-pursuing, or subtly demanding validation through constant attention, you place them in an invisible vice. You might not say it outright, but the message is loud and clear. Please make me feel seen. Please make me feel worthy. And that is pressure. Not romantic, not empowering, just heavy. What many people don't understand is that pressure doesn't always look like ultimatums. It can look like checking in 3 times a day, when once was enough. It can look like constantly asking where things are going. It can look like over-explaining your feelings in hopes that they'll finally get it. It can look like doing things for someone, favors, gestures, gifts that they didn't ask for, and quietly expecting emotional repayment in return. In Stoic terms, this is the illusion of control. We think if we just do enough, give enough, show enough, say the right things, we can influence how they feel. But the Stoics knew better. You cannot control the hearts of others. You can only control the strength of your own. Here's a hard truth. When someone starts to pull away, most people do the opposite of what they should. Instead of backing off, giving space and recentering their energy inward, they double down. They say more, show more, reach out more. Why? Because we're uncomfortable with ambiguity. We want certainty, but emotional certainty can never be forced. It must arise naturally. Imagine someone walking just a few steps ahead of you. If you run up and close the gap too quickly, they'll instinctively increase their pace. But if you stay calm, consistent, unbothered, they may eventually slow down to walk beside you. The paradox is this: true closeness is only possible when there's space to breathe. If your interest becomes a source of anxiety for them, they'll unconsciously associate your presence with pressure. And once that link is made, it's hard to undo. Every message you send, every gesture you offer, will feel to them like one more obligation. You might be thinking, but I just wanted to be clear. I just wanted to be honest. And that's admirable. But clarity doesn't require overexposure. Honesty doesn't require urgency. If someone needs space to come to terms with their feelings, your job is not to fill that silence with declarations. It's to hold steady in it. The Stoic doesn't panic in the face of uncertainty. He doesn't sprint toward closure or chase after affirmation. He waits, observes, holds his line, because he knows that pressure never leads to connection, only to resistance. So if your interest isn't being met with equal warmth, pause, take a step back. Let them come forward on their own terms. Not because you're playing a game, but because you understand this fundamental law of human dynamics. When we feel free, we feel safe. And when we feel safe, we lean in. 3. Emotions must serve, not lead. One of the most misunderstood ideas in modern relationships is this: that to be emotionally open is to be emotionally wise. That vulnerability on its own is strength. That feelings are truth. The Stoics would challenge that, not to deny emotion, but to put it in its rightful place. Emotions are powerful tools. They are not meant to be dictators. Let's look closely. When you feel attraction, real, deep, soul-level pull towards someone, your body reacts, your mind begins to race, your heart softens, your guard lowers. And if you're not careful, your discernment dissolves. You stop asking the important questions. Are they emotionally available? Do they share my values? Are they even interested? Instead, you focus on how you feel and mistake that feeling for evidence of something real. But attraction without wisdom is a storm without a compass. When you let emotions lead, you overinterpret every small signal. A delay in reply feels like rejection. A short message feels like distance. And you respond not with calm but with more intensity, trying to close the gap, to soothe the wound, to reassure yourself that everything is okay. And when it's not okay, you often double down instead of stepping back. The Stoic knows something different. He knows that emotions are to be felt fully, but followed rarely. He understands that feelings can be deceptive, born from past wounds, unmet needs, unresolved loneliness. He doesn't trust them blindly. He studies them, he watches himself feel, without immediately acting. When someone doesn't reciprocate your energy, the Stoic response is not to turn up the volume. It's to inquire inward. Why do I feel the need to prove myself to this person? Why am I so affected by their inconsistency? What part of me feels unworthy when I am not pursued? These are not surface-level questions. These are soul-level. And they are the questions that free you from emotional slavery. Because the danger is not in emotion. It's in letting it steer your behavior. Emotion without reflection becomes impulsiveness. And impulsiveness in love leads to burnout, heartbreak, and regret. Let's say you're emotionally overwhelmed by someone pulling away. The temptation will be to fix it now, to get answers, to force clarity, to restore closeness. But that emotional urgency leads you to text when you should wait, to vent when you should reflect, to act when silence would have revealed far more. This is why Stoicism remains so relevant in modern dating. It gives you the power to create space between emotion and action. Instead of chasing, you pause. Instead of pouring out your soul, you observe theirs. Instead of needing reassurance, you reassure yourself. When your emotions serve your reason, you remain grounded. You remain powerful. You remain visible. But when your emotions lead, you become reactive, erratic, hard to trust. Not because you're unworthy, but because your center is lost. Let me ask you this and be honest with yourself. Have you ever ruined a moment, a connection, or a conversation by letting your emotions spill out too quickly, too loudly, without control? If the answer is yes, you're not alone. Many of us have. But growth begins with awareness. So let's do something together. If you're committing right now to learning to feel without losing yourself, to harnessing emotion without letting it control you, then I want you to write this in the comments below. I lead my emotions. They do not lead me. Make this your daily mantra. Make it your code. Because in a world drowning in emotional overexposure, the one who moves with calm is the one who stands out. 4. The fade is a feedback loop. One of the hardest things to witness, and perhaps one of the most quietly painful, is the slow fading of someone's interest. They don't break it off. They don't tell you what's wrong. They just drift. They pull away in increments so small, so subtle, you question whether you're imagining it. But the silence grows louder. The responses come slower. The spark dims, not all at once, but like a candle starved of air. And in your confusion, you lean in. You try harder. You become sweeter, more available, more expressive. You send one more message. You offer one more compliment. You ask if everything's okay, though you already feel the answer in your bones. You don't want to be needy, but the ambiguity drives you to seek closure that never comes. This is the moment where most people unknowingly trigger the feedback loop. Here's what I mean. When someone begins to fade for whatever reason, they're creating space. That space may be intentional or unconscious. They may be losing interest or unsure how to handle their own feelings. But regardless of the cause, they're withdrawing. And when you respond by closing that space, by increasing your presence, you validate their instinct to pull away. It confirms at a primal level that their value is increasing while yours is decreasing. This isn't about fairness. It's not about who's more worthy. It's about perception. And in the world of attraction, perception is power. People rarely fade because someone's too interested. They fade because the dynamic feels off. One person is chasing, while the other retreats. And when you meet distance with desperation, the loop intensifies. The more they withdraw, the more you pursue. The more you pursue, the more they feel crowded, and the more they continue to pull away. This loop creates a silent narrative. They need me more than I need them. They are anxious. I must be the prize. They're feeling scarcity. I'm feeling abundance. Whether they consciously think these thoughts or not, the emotional reality is the same. And that imbalance disrupts the natural flow of connection. It turns what once felt magnetic into something burdensome. The Stoic perspective teaches us that all things in life move in cycles and rhythms. Nature does not force. The ocean does not plead. The moon does not beg the tide to return. It waits. It moves. It trusts. And so must you. When someone fades, your instinct may scream to act, to fix, to explain, to clarify. But stillness is often more powerful than pursuit. In that stillness, you reclaim your frame. You shift from reaction to observation. And observation is the beginning of wisdom. There's another layer to this. Your own self-perception begins to shift when you're caught in the loop. You begin to feel less worthy, less attractive, less secure. Not because you are any of those things, but because your identity is now tied to another's attention. And when that attention fades, your sense of self erodes with it. You become fragmented, emotionally fragile, hypersensitive to every cue, every pause, every unread message. This is not love. This is ego wounded by absence. And the only way to heal that wound is to remove your value from their validation. Break the loop. Let the silence breathe. Let their absence echo without filling it. Don't mistake it for rejection. Sometimes it's just a test of your self-respect, your patience, your stability. And sometimes, yes, it's the beginning of the end. But even then, your response defines your legacy. Do you leave them with an image of you scrambling to hold on? Or do you leave them with the memory of someone who remained dignified in the face of distance? Someone who knew their worth didn't evaporate just because another person couldn't see it clearly anymore. In the end, the fade is not always personal, but how you respond to it, that is. And if you meet it with grace, with stillness, with composure, you may not win them back, but you will reclaim something far more valuable, yourself. 5. Need repels. Strength attracts. There's a silent energy that follows you into every room, every relationship, every conversation. You can't fake it. You can't rehearse it. People feel it before you even speak. It's the energy of need or the energy of strength. Need is heavy. It weighs down your words. It fills the space between texts. It sits behind compliments and gestures like a shadow, barely visible but unmistakably present. It's that quiet desperation that says, please choose me because I haven't fully chosen myself. Strength, on the other hand, is light, grounded, confident, not loud, not arrogant, but unmistakably secure. It's the presence of someone who isn't chasing approval, who brings value without trying to prove it. And here's the paradox. The more you need someone to choose you, the less likely they are to do it. Because need repels, and strength attracts. We are drawn to those who seem whole. Wholeness is magnetic. It's not that we want someone who doesn't care. It's that we want someone who doesn't collapse in our absence. Someone who gives because they choose to, not because they have to. Someone whose love is a gift, not a strategy. Neediness is not about how often you text. It's about the energy behind it. You can message once a day and still radiate need. You can text 3 times a day and still radiate confidence. What matters is why you're doing it. What emotional place are you acting from? The Stoics had a concept called autarkeia, self-sufficiency. It didn't mean isolation. It meant that your core needs, your peace, your inner stability came from within. When you operated from autarkeia, your relationships became expressions of joy, not dependencies for survival. Let's break it down. Need says, I need your attention to feel enough. Strength says, I enjoy your presence, but I am complete with or without it. Need says, tell me how you feel, so I can feel safe. Strength says, I trust what I see, and I will move accordingly. Need says, please don't leave. Strength says, if you leave, I will grieve, but I will not break. One energy seeks to be rescued. The other walks with a steady step, no matter who walks beside them. This is not about pretending you don't care. Stoicism isn't about coldness. It's about clarity. It's about not letting desire override dignity. It's about loving deeply without losing yourself in the process. The moment you begin to radiate strength, not in a performative way, but genuinely, the entire dynamic shifts. You stop trying to be chosen. You start evaluating whether they're even worth your energy. And people feel that. They feel the difference between someone trying to win them and someone inviting them to rise to the same standard. And yes, this applies to all relationships. Romantic, platonic, even professional. People respect those who respect themselves. They admire restraint. They notice presence that doesn't beg to be seen. So if you've been feeling ignored, unseen, or unvalued, I urge you to stop asking what's wrong with them. Start asking whether your energy has been rooted in need or in strength. Because one will push others away, the other will make them want to stay. Let's go deeper. I want you to reflect. Have you ever felt someone subtly pull away from you the moment your neediness crept in? Did you sense that shift, that subtle cooling, and then try to fix it by doubling down? If that's ever been your experience, there's no shame. But now you know. And knowing means the power to change. So here's what I want from you. If you're ready to replace need with strength, to stop chasing and start standing, then drop this in the comments below. I bring the value. I am the calm. I walk in strength. Say it once. Say it often. Say it until you believe it. Because the world may not always reward you instantly for your calm presence, but it will never forget the way it felt when you walked into the room, grounded, whole, and unapologetically enough. 6. Attraction lives in mystery. There's a quiet, ancient truth that's been echoed through time, from the philosophers of Athens to the poets of Rome. And it still holds true in the age of instant messages and endless scrolling. What is fully known too is quickly forgotten. Attraction doesn't just thrive on shared values or chemistry. It breathes through mystery. That isn't a game. It's not manipulation. It's human nature. It's how our minds are wired to seek, to wonder, to be drawn toward the unknown. When something is fully available, fully explained, fully predictable, it becomes part of the background, safe, familiar, but not necessarily exciting. And so many people sabotage their own allure, not because they aren't attractive, but because they lay every card on the table too soon. They overshare, over-explain, overexpose. They make their emotions a spotlight instead of a slow-burning candle. Let's be clear. This isn't about being closed off. It's not about withholding for the sake of power. It's about allowing a natural rhythm to emerge, one that builds intrigue, wonder, and emotional tension in a healthy way. You see, mystery is not the opposite of honesty. It is the companion of timing. There's a reason we're drawn to the ocean, to the stars, to the deep silence of ancient ruins. They don't tell us everything at once. They let us feel, sense, interpret. They leave space, and in that space, we project meaning, beauty, depth. People work the same way. The Stoics understood this too. Epictetus taught that we should be a philosopher to ourselves, but plain to others. Why? Because those who reveal the full depth of their mind or heart too quickly often overwhelm others who haven't earned that intimacy. The same is true in love. Mystery is not about being fake. It's about being selective with your truth. It's about allowing the other person to pursue your depths, not just observe your display. When they have to wonder what you're thinking, they begin to value what you say. When they don't have immediate access to your every emotion, they start to lean in to feel more. And in that leaning in, connection deepens. But when every emotion is declared the moment it's felt, when your desires are confessed before they've been earned, when your entire identity is laid bare within a few days or weeks, you strip away the very process that turns curiosity into craving. Mystery invites pursuit, and pursuit is the heartbeat of attraction. That doesn't mean being secretive or cold. It means moving with restraint, allowing your truth to unfold over time, letting your silences speak as much as your words. It means you don't always answer right away, not to create anxiety, but because you're a full human being with your own rhythm, not just a servant of immediacy. It means you don't explain every emotional nuance the second it arises, not because you're hiding, but because you're learning to hold your own inner world without needing constant external validation. And it means, most of all, that you recognize this. Your depth is a gift. It should be earned, not demanded. When you carry that energy, quietly confident, calmly mysterious, others don't walk away. They stay intrigued. They lean closer. They wonder who you are when you're alone. They crave the next conversation, not because you gave them everything, but because you didn't. Let people discover you, like pages in a well-written book, one layer at a time. Because a soul revealed too fast is rarely understood, and often underappreciated. 7. Let curiosity work in your favor. Curiosity is one of the most underestimated forces in human connection. We tend to think of attraction in terms of looks, status, wit, or shared values. And yes, all of those play a part. But if someone is not curious about you, about your thoughts, your past, your silence, your contradictions, then they will never stay interested for long. And here's the truth most people miss. You don't spark curiosity by trying to be interesting. You spark it by being whole, by not overselling yourself, by not rushing to explain, by not anxiously filling every pause with commentary or clarification. You let your essence speak. You let your restraint suggest depth. You let the mystery from the last chapter become the fuel for the curiosity in this one. The Stoics knew the power of indirect influence. Marcus Aurelius didn't beg his peers to adopt his philosophy. He lived it, silently, steadily, and his presence made others curious. Why is this man so calm in crisis? Why is he so unaffected by praise or criticism? What does he know that I don't? That's how curiosity works. When you walk in peace, people want to know what anchors you. When you speak with measured intent, people want to know what governs your thoughts. When you're able to feel deeply but remain emotionally composed, people wonder what kind of strength you possess and where it comes from. This isn't manipulation. It's alignment. You are aligned with your values, your direction, your sense of self. And alignment is rare. And rarity creates curiosity. In practical terms, don't try to fill the space in a conversation too quickly. Let pauses breathe. Let your silences carry weight. If someone asks a personal question, don't feel obliged to offer your whole life story. Offer just enough to keep the thread alive, and let them pull it. Let them ask. Let them lean. The more someone asks, the more invested they become. Because once curiosity is engaged, ego is on the line. The more time and thought they give to you, the more significant you become in their mind. But if you flood the space with everything they might have wanted to ask, you take away that process. You give them the reward before they've earned the effort. And you become, unintentionally, disposable. Let curiosity work for you. Live in such a way that your energy makes people wonder, why are you so composed? What are your mornings like? What kind of pain have you endured to move with such peace? When someone doesn't immediately know how to define you, they don't dismiss you. They ponder you. And pondering leads to investment. And investment leads to affection that runs deeper than just initial attraction. This applies beyond romance too. Friendships, work, influence. When you hold your frame, when you live with depth, and don't shove that depth into someone's face, you become someone who leaves an impression. So here's a question. Have you been trying too hard to impress others with your transparency? Have you been so afraid of being misunderstood that you've laid yourself bare before someone even earned your truth? If so, take a breath. And if you're ready to let curiosity do the work, to hold back just a little, to speak only what serves, to let others pull the thread while you remain grounded, then I want you to affirm it now. In the comments below, write this: my silence holds power. Curiosity will draw them in. Write it, feel it, live it, because your presence, when fully aligned, will draw more attention than any performance ever could. 8. Be calm, not clingy. Clinginess is not defined by how often you reach out. It's not about how much time you want to spend together, or how much affection you feel. Clinginess is an energetic imbalance. It's when your emotional stability begins to depend on someone else's behavior. It's when your sense of calm vanishes the moment you feel them pulling away. And worse, it's when that loss of calm leaks into every gesture, every message, every silence. The difference between calm and clingy is subtle, but profound. Calm says, I value you, but I don't vanish without you. Clingy says, without you, I can't settle. Let's strip this to its core. Calm is composed. Clingy is compulsive. Calm trusts the process. Clingy demands constant reassurance. Calm is grounded in self-worth. Clingy is driven by fear of loss. What the Stoics taught, and what modern dating continues to prove, is that the moment your emotional state becomes visibly volatile, based on another person's actions, you lose more than their interest. You lose your center. You betray yourself. Many people confuse calm with detachment. But calm is not disinterest. It's the discipline to stay centered when things are uncertain, when they don't text back, when their tone is colder than usual, when their energy shifts and your old wounds start whispering that something is wrong. The clingy mind panics. It overanalyzes. It spirals. The calm mind observes. It says, something may be happening here, or maybe not. Either way, I remain grounded. This groundedness is everything. It's not just attractive, it's rare. And in a world where everyone is reacting, chasing, overthinking, and oversharing, The person who stands still, who moves with patience, grace, and quiet strength, becomes unforgettable. Let's talk about the signs of energetic clinginess, because they're not always obvious. Clinginess often hides behind checking in. It shows up in messages that fish for reassurance. Are we still good? Did I do something wrong? Just wondering if you're okay. It emerges when we text, not because we have something to share, but because we're anxious about the silence. It arises when we try to preemptively fix a problem that may not even exist, just to escape our own discomfort. And often, these actions come from a beautiful place, a place that longs to connect, to be close, to feel secure. But here's the hard truth. It is not someone else's job to regulate your inner storm. The Stoics taught that emotional sovereignty, the ability to rule yourself, is the highest form of freedom. And if someone else can knock you off center with a single ignored message, then you are not free. You are dependent, not in a healthy way, but in a way that quietly erodes your self-trust. So how do we embody calm? It begins with trusting yourself, trusting that you are worthy, even if they take a step back. Trusting that space doesn't mean rejection. It may mean processing, reflection, or simply life being life. Trusting that, if it does mean they're pulling away, then you will meet that truth with composure, not collapse. Calm doesn't mean you don't care. It means your caring isn't panicked. It's peaceful. You can still check in, but from a place of steadiness, not anxiety. You can still initiate, but without the unspoken subtext of "please validate me." You can still love deeply, but not lose your balance in the process. And when you do that, when you move from inner calm rather than external cues, everything changes. You stop being perceived as a burden. You become a presence that brings relief, not pressure. You become the one they feel safe returning to. Not because you chased them, but because you didn't. Because while clinginess whispers, "Don't leave me," calm says, "I'm here, whole, stable, unshaken." And you're free to come closer or walk away. That freedom is powerful. That energy is rare. That is Stoic strength.
Conclusion.
So now we arrive at the end of this journey. But in truth, this is where your real work begins. Because what we've talked about here isn't just about dating. It's not just about relationships or attraction. It's about your inner foundation, your sense of self, your capacity to lead with peace, not panic. You've seen how overinvesting leads to imbalance, how excessive interest becomes pressure, how emotional overexposure erodes intrigue, how mystery sparks curiosity, how calm speaks louder than 1,000 anxious gestures, and how strength, quiet, grounded strength, pulls people in without a single word. This is the Stoic path in love and connection. It doesn't mean coldness. It doesn't mean pretending you don't care. It means standing so firmly in your value, so securely in your frame, that no matter who comes or goes, you remain still, present, powerful. And that's not easy in a world of constant noise. But that's why those who walk this path, calmly, steadily, without desperation, stand out. So here's your call to action, and it's twofold. First, if this spoke to you, if it challenged or awakened something inside you, then subscribe to the Everlasting Stoic, because this is just the beginning. We go deeper, we rise higher, and every week, you'll find the kind of timeless, grounded truth here that most people never hear. Second, I want to hear from you. Drop into the comments and tell me what moment in this video hit hardest for you. What truth felt uncomfortable but necessary? Or, if you're ready to commit to everything we've discussed today, not perfectly, but intentionally, then write this: I choose stillness over seeking. I walk with calm. I rise with strength. That's your anchor. That's your vow. And it begins to... I'll see you in the next one. Until then, remain grounded, walk steady, and stay everlasting.